Tim, how are you doing this fine morning?
Oh, hi, Diane. It's Monday. That says it all, huh? Oh, is this yours?
Could be. I'm expecting some important papers from Dr. Farber.
Oh, this must be them. Looks like part of a medical history for a Ronald Schmidt in Cincinnati.
Yeah, that's mine. Thanks. That's quite a stack of papers you got there.
Yeah.
Looks like you'll be here all day.
Yeah, requisitions, requests for bids, confirmation of orders, Monday morning paperwork. You're still having trouble with that light, huh?
Yeah, it's still not working.
Yeah, well, I'll send somebody over. I can't get to it today, but Wednesday at the latest, okay?
That'll be fine. Thanks.
If that little scenario looks familiar, it's because encounters like that routinely happen every day in VA facilities all over the country.
No big deal, you say. Perfectly innocent, no harm done. Well, at the time, that's what I thought, too. Until I found out that looking at Mr. Schmidt's lab reports violates the federal privacy laws. I had no idea. As an engineering supervisor, I have nothing to do with veterans' confidential records, like medical or benefits information. It's not part of my job. But sometimes I might accidentally see them, or overhear someone talking, or just hand over a confidential document like I did with Diane. I thought I was just being courteous, and there's nothing wrong with that. What is important is the fact that if you do come across confidential information, accidentally or otherwise, you have a duty to protect the veteran's right to privacy by never disclosing that information to anyone, anytime, anywhere without proper authority, even after the veteran dies. And it applies to all VA employees and volunteers alike, no matter if you work for the Veterans Health Administration, the Veterans Benefits Administration, the National Cemetery Administration, or any other staff office. To help you get a better understanding of just how important privacy issues are, you need to be aware of several key provisions about the federal privacy laws.
Like the definition and meaning of privacy, privacy policy, and protected medical information. Specific privacy issues in VA, examples and consequences of breaches of privacy, your role and responsibilities in ensuring privacy, and the rights granted to veterans under the Privacy Act and HIPAA.
We've all probably heard a little bit about HIPAA, but if you're like me, that's about as far as it goes. I didn't have a clue about any of that other stuff until I took the training. Pretty good video, don't you think?
Yeah, it got my attention.
Told me a lot of things I didn't know.
Yeah, same here. Hey, listen, guys, I gotta run. I'll catch you later, huh?
So what caught your fancy?
I thought it was interesting. I knew a little bit about VA's privacy policy, but what really hit home is that I have a responsibility to protect a veteran's confidential information, even though my job doesn't bring me anywhere close to that kind of information.
Me too. I mean, I work all over the campus, and I see a lot. Those stacks of paper lying around, computer screens left on. I don't think that's a problem, do you?
Could be. I'd ask your supervisor or one of those privacy officers, as shown in the video.
You ever run into situations like that?
What? You want to see how easy it is to find out all kinds of confidential information when people get careless? Let's walk over to my place. Won't take but a minute.
I could use a cup of coffee.
You got it. On me. This time.
Hey, Matt, want some company?
Pull up a chair. Just going over my notes from this morning.
Oh, yeah, I haven't had a chance to look over mine yet.
There's a lot to digest.
Yeah, like what?
Well, like what privacy policy really means, or some of these fancy phrases like personally identifiable information. I mean, my take on it is it's anything like a person's name, social security number, address, phone number, stuff like that.
Yeah, that sounds right. Personally identifiable information is any information that can be traced to a specific veteran.
And I can see how that can happen. I mean, a written report goes through a lot of hands. People gossip in elevators or in break rooms. Email and computer notes fly back and forth.
Not to mention nosy electricians looking at computer screens. Refill?
I told you I'd check that out with my boss.
Just kidding. I only do this for disabled vets, but in your case, I'll make an exception.
Thanks a lot, Kathy.
Now, you see what I mean, Matt?
Yeah, sure do.
Excuse me, guys. Somebody want to clue me in here?
Oh, sorry, Tim. I was telling Matt earlier how people wander in and out of here with lab reports, patients' progress notes, veterans' benefit forms. Happens quite frequently.
I come in here every day. I've never given it a second thought.
See that bunch over there? They came through the line yakking about a female patient's information this morning.
I swear, the inflammation has doubled in size since last week alone.
But after today,
I know to keep my mouth shut, but you guys know that this is only one example of an employee being careless. A couple of days ago, just after we closed, an employee comes running in here all in a panic. Said he left a patient's file in here. Did we find it? Lucky for him, we did. Now, I'm not blaming the guy, because that kind of stuff can happen to anybody. I mean, how many times have you lost your car keys?
losing your car keys is one thing, but a patient's files, I mean, that's really serious.
Believe me, the guy was really embarrassed. He knew there could be a big problem if somebody picked it up. Fortunately, that didn't happen.
You know, while I was taking the training this morning, my first thought was, well, maybe they're going a little overboard with all this privacy business. But then I thought, no, wait a minute, I'm an employee here, and a veteran too. I don't want my records released to just anyone. So now I can see why everyone at VA, no matter what their job is, it's their business and responsibility to respect a veteran's right to privacy.
You're in a public place, you're bound to hear things you shouldn't. I mean, the law must take that into consideration.
Sounds like a good question for our privacy officer. I'll leave it to you, Matt, to follow up on that one. Take care, guys.
See you, Kevin. I don't know, but off the top of my head, I'd say anything you hear, just keep it to yourself.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, besides, that stuff goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, same here.
You know, Tim, there's one thing I didn't realize until this morning. I mean, the VA has millions of records protected by federal law. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, laws addressing data privacy in general, and other laws addressing specific types of data and how it's stored or how it's transmitted. Boy, you hear all about computer hackers, and that can get a little scary. I mean, I'm glad there is a law. If somebody steals my records, I want them punished.
I am impressed. I don't think you're as fuzzy as you say you are.
Let's just say I paid attention. Hey, gotta run. I need to replace a broken light fixture in building 2. Have a good day, Tim.
Adios. Kathy and Matt bring some very important issues that each of us, employees and volunteer alike, needs to be aware of. Now, while we'll be talking about all the VA sites, the Veterans Benefits Administration, National Cemetery Administration, and the Veterans Health Administration, let's first consider the privacy laws as they pertain to health information by quickly reviewing a few key points. First, what specific rights do veterans have regarding their health information?
Specifically, they have the right to a copy of their health information, request corrections to their health information, request a list of everyone outside of VA who received any health information provided by VHA, and a copy of the VA Notice of Privacy Practices.
Although you may not normally have access to or work with this kind of information, there are a few key things you need to know about the privacy laws and how they affect your job. As you recall, Matt was curious about what the term privacy policies actually meant. Here's the scoop.
VA has established privacy policies to enforce veterans' rights about their health information. These policies also provide guidance about the use and disclosure of the veteran's protected health information. Personally identifiable information includes a person's name, social security number, address, telephone number, or any other information that could be traced to the veteran. Federal laws that affect the privacy of information fall into two major categories. First, laws addressing data privacy in general, and second, laws pertaining to the way data is stored or the way it's transmitted. And finally, we touched on how records get exposed. Some examples: written records or documents left out into the open for anyone to see, during informal conversations on elevators, in hallways or vans, and by sharing computer notes such as reports, benefits information, progress notes, and lab reports.
The bottom line is that at VA, maintaining and protecting a veteran's privacy is everyone's job.
Sure, there'll be times when the subject comes up during an ordinary conversation. So the question is, what to do if you find yourself in just such a situation? Well, Phil and Alice here are about to find out.
That pie any good?
It's delicious. You should try some.
Hey, guys.
Hey, if it isn't Jim the van driver, man. Done with your route today, huh? Man, that took you a while.
Yeah, today was Let's Everybody Go to the VA Day. I had a lot of extra stops, so the guys had plenty of time to gab about their ailments and treatments. Say, you guys remember Fred Stone? He was the commander of our post a few years back.
Yeah, I remember him. You volunteering for your job?
No, for a matter of fact, this is the first time that I know of that he came in for treatment. Well, he knows most of the guys, so he started talking about how sick he is and all the treatments he's getting for everything from emphysema to
Whoa, partner. Alice and I really don't need to hear this. I mean, we have no need to know, and quite frankly, you shouldn't be passing this information on.
I hear it all the time. You know how vets are when they get together. They like to compare notes. I can't control it or tell them to shut up. Besides, they don't care if I hear it or not.
Yeah, but just because you hear it doesn't mean you're supposed to pass it on. Sure, the vets like to talk about their problems when they get together, and they know you're hearing this, but they expect you to keep it to yourself.
Yeah, a rule of thumb on this one, Jim, would be what you hear in the van should stay in the van.
Exactly. Don't repeat what you hear. That way you won't be violating any laws.
Laws? What are you talking about? I never heard of any laws.
Oh, the federal privacy laws. Anybody who supports VA, like yourself as a volunteer driver, has a legal obligation and is trusted to protect a person's private information.
And if you should tell somebody who doesn't need to know, under certain circumstances, it could have serious consequences for veterans and their dependents and the VA if you tell somebody.
Yeah, and I hate to tell you this, old buddy, but you could get hurt too.
Like how?
Well, for one thing, you could lose your position. And if it's serious enough, you could get hit with some pretty stiff fines or jail time.
Fines? What kind of fines?
Depends on the type of violation and how serious it is. If it's simply carelessness, most likely there won't be a fine. Maybe some disciplinary action. If it's more than that, you could be looking at anywhere between $5,000 and $250,000 and maybe go to prison.
Prison? Just for breaking a little privacy law?
It's not a little law, Jim. It's serious. And if they decide you broke the law maliciously or with the intent to harm someone, you could be facing 10 years in prison.
With the kind of work I do taking these guys back and forth to the VA, I'll just claim ignorance.
That won't wash, Jim. I tell you what, ignorance is no excuse. You know, even if you don't have regular contact with veteran information, the VA requires everyone, employees and volunteers, to take a privacy training course.
You mean like me? Volunteer escorts, building maintenance folk, and people that deliver mail or flowers to patients?
You got it. Custodians, groundkeepers, food service workers, everyone who's connected with VA in some capacity.
I suppose that includes my wife, Flo. She comes in a couple of times a month to volunteer to help with bingo.
Well, now that's an excellent opportunity, Jim. You and Flo can watch the training video together.
Yeah.
Will the training tell us what to do?
Oh, it sure will. How to protect veterans' privacy and some helpful do's and don'ts.
What to do if you should accidentally see or overhear something you shouldn't. Borderline cases or outright violations. They cover it all. It helped me a lot.
Wait a minute, Alice. You're a volunteer like me. You don't get anywhere near patients' records.
The heck I don't.
When?
I work at the nurse's station. Take patients back and forth to the lab. Sometimes I'm in the room when the doctors come. I hear people talking on the phone, instructors and medical students going from room to room. I hear a lot more than you think.
Yeah, and just like Alice, I mean, I'm just a purchasing agent, but that doesn't mean that I don't come across some confidential information now and then.
You see, Jim, we're all supposed to know the rules. Mainly it's just common sense, but if we're not sure, we can always ask someone. As he said, ignorance is no excuse. Believe me, the training is really worthwhile. Besides, it's your business and responsibility to take the training.
How many times do I have to take it?
Once a year, no exceptions. If I were you, I'd check with your supervisor before you leave today.
That'd be Sarah Atkins.
Yes, stop by and see her. She'll tell you what you have to do.
Yeah, and one more thing, Jim. If you're thinking about playing hooky, I think I should tell you that the VA keeps records on everybody who's taken the course.
All right, I get the message. This isn't something to be taken lightly. Thanks for the tips. I don't want to break any rules. Been working with Best for over 7 years, and I like it a lot. And I sure don't want to lose their trust. Well, I got another run to make. See you later.
See you, Jim.
Like Jim, you may sometimes find yourself in situations that you simply can't control. In those cases, you're obligated to keep the information to yourself and not pass it on. Here are a few tips to help you ensure veteran privacy. Always take privacy seriously. Respect the privacy of veterans and your coworkers. Curb your own curiosity. And never discuss private data in public places. As Alice and Phil pointed out, violating the federal privacy laws can result in serious consequences. If it's a case of negligence or carelessness, you may be subject to disciplinary action. If the incident is judged as having been done maliciously or with the intent to harm, you've broken the law and may be fined, sent to prison, and lose your job. And remember, every employee, student, and volunteer must take privacy refresher training each year. No exceptions. More often than not, privacy disclosures happen during perfectly innocent conversations. I can testify to that. It happened to me before I took the privacy training class.
Hey, Tim. Here's those purchase orders you wanted.
Thanks, Phil. I'll look them over.
Hey, did you check out that movie on cable last night? It was called Nowhere to Run. It's about a couple of Air Force guys that got shot down during the Korean War, and then they had to spend 2 or 3 weeks hiding out from the enemy.
Yeah, I know that movie. I think that's based on a true story, isn't it?
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, I couldn't help comparing that to a friend of mine. He was a chopper pilot in Vietnam, and he got shot down, and he spent 2 or 3 days in the jungle hiding out from the enemy. It was just like the Flyboys in the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Did he come out okay?
Well, he lost a leg below the knee, and he's been battling the effects of Agent Orange for some time now. As a matter of fact, he's coming here for treatment. Just found out from Dr. Smith the other day, though, that he has bone cancer.
Oh.
Yeah, and they don't know if it's from the Agent Orange or not, so they got him running a bunch of tests.
Yeah. What's the prognosis?
Well, according to the latest test results, not real good.
Today, I would have handled that situation a lot differently. And to their credit, I'm sure Phil and Dr. Smith would have too. Just by talking about a vet makes it easier to piece together the information and find out who he is. That's a breach. Just one example of how easy it is to innocently disclose confidential information. There are a lot of other ways too, and some without ever saying a word.
Hi, Matt from engineering, here to fix your light. Is this a good time?
Hi, I was hoping you'd come today. Let me finish processing this veteran's claim, and then I'll get out of your way.
Don't mind me, this shouldn't take long. I'll have this fixed before you know it.
That's okay. I need a break anyway. There, done. Let me lock out my computer, and I'll be out of your hair. How long will this take?
Give me about 15 minutes.
Take your time. I haven't had a break all day.
That was a good move on Diane's part. She did the right thing by closing the document and locking her computer before leaving the office. Also, keep in mind that because Diane was working on confidential information when Matt walked in, he's obligated not to disclose any confidential information he may have seen before Diane shut down the computer. I think this incident classically illustrates how that simply by working in a VA facility, you'll run into privacy issues just about everywhere you go. So, just how easy is it to breach a veteran's privacy? Here are just a few of the more common ones. Being careless with sensitive information, claiming ignorance, which isn't a valid excuse. At times, our electronic systems may be vulnerable to hackers and computer viruses. There may be flaws in a facility's security system, policies, or procedures. Criminal behavior, For example, employees with grudges, personal vendettas, theft, and just plain mischief. And finally, the tragedy of 9/11 and other terrorist activities have taught us that we can be stung by enemy attacks.
As I said earlier, no matter if you're part of the Veterans Health Administration, Veterans Benefits Administration, or National Cemetery Administration, protecting a veteran's privacy is a priority, even after a veteran dies.
Hey, George. I need a favor.
Sure, Betty. What do you need?
Well, a friend of mine has a friend who lost a daughter in the 9/11 attack on the Pentagon. She wants to get in contact with her now, just to, see how she's doing. The trouble is that the family has moved since the attack, and they've lost contact.
So how can I help?
Well, see, the daughter's a veteran. She's buried here. So my friend thought because I work here, I could just look up the address and phone number of the next of kin. I mean, I don't have access to those records, but I know that you do. So could you look that up for me and get that to me? The name of the deceased is Compton. It's Martha Compton, C-O-M-P-T-O-N.
I'd love to help you, Betty, but I can't.
Why? I mean, all you have to do is just look it up on the computer. I promised my friend I would get her the information she wants.
Like I said, I'd love to help. But what you're asking me to do violates federal privacy laws. I can't just give out protected personal information like that.
But I mean, the daughter's dead.
It doesn't matter. We can't give out that kind of personal information without permission or authority, even if the veteran's deceased. It's the law.
Huh. I didn't know that. So now what am I going to tell my friend?
Just what I told you. Even if a veteran has passed on, employees of the National Cemetery Administration cannot disclose any personal information about that person without permission of someone in authority, next of kin, or legal authority.
Okay. Anyway, now I know what to say if somebody else asks me for a favor. You know what, George? Come to think of it, I do have some other friends that know that family. I think I'll just touch base with them and see if one of them knows where the Comptons moved to.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah. Thanks.
So as we've seen, privacy is everyone's business. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It can be breached anytime, anywhere, in a private office or in a public area like this one. If you're ever in doubt about a possible breach of privacy, ask someone or contact your facility's privacy officer.
One good way to remember that is to treat all personal information and health records as if they're your own.
You're absolutely right, Diane. I know I wouldn't want an unauthorized person poking around in my VA records and looking at my personal information.
I don't think anyone would. Let's recap.
Everyone in VA, employees and volunteers, are responsible for keeping personally identifiable information, including protected health information, confidential.
If you discover or have to work with protected information, don't discuss it with your coworkers or in public.
Make sure to secure any confidential data before you leave the area. That includes both written documents and electronic data.
And never talk about veteran information inappropriately outside or inside your work area.
And if you ever have a question, no matter how trivial it may seem, contact your supervisor for advice.
Or your facility's privacy officer. He or she is here to help you.
I'd say when it comes to respecting a veteran's right to privacy, it's mostly a matter of using common sense.
I agree. Oh, there's Jim. Think we can hitch a ride with him to the medical center?
Let's give it a try. Hey, Jim, get your ride?
I think there's room. Hop on.
Thanks.
In the Battle of the Bulge, I froze my feet, and I've been doctoring down here now for some 4 years.
Guess I'm going to get a first-hand look at what you're up against, huh, Jim?
You mean that privacy thing? They like to talk, but my lips are sealed.
We live in amazing times, the digital age, the age of information. But with these wonders come complications, complications that may seem overwhelming, especially when it comes to information security. But it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, information security is based on some simple, old-fashioned ideas. This is Billy. Billy has just started work in the Veterans Benefits Administration. Billy is excited to be starting work with us at the VA, but he's still got a lot to learn.
Excuse me, sir? Sir, who are you talking to?
Don't worry about that, Billy. You've got more important things to think about, like all the training you've still got to do. Luckily for Billy, a lot of our training at VA can be achieved using our state-of-the-art computer network.
Say, that's a swell idea.
But first things first. Before Billy can begin using VA computers, he's going to have to create what's called a username and a password. The username is simple. He can even use his actual name.
Billy.
That's terrific, Billy.
Is there something I could do for you?
You bet, Billy. You could choose your password. Oh, don't use simple words like presto.
How could you see that from over there? And who are you talking to?
Well, I'm talking to all of our new employees, Billy, because you all need to know how to create what we call a strong password.
Could you maybe come over here and explain it?
Sure, Billy. To begin with, your password needs to be at least 8 characters long.
Oh, I see. So presto was just too few characters.
Not so fast. It's weak for other reasons, Billy.
But how can something like a password be strong or weak? And why do you keep saying my name every time you talk to me?
Oh, don't worry about that, Billy. Worry about making a strong password. Weak passwords are passwords which are easily broken. If your password is especially weak, like using your own name or using your birthday, anyone might be able to guess it. But even if you choose a word which seems random, it can still be cracked by bad people we call hackers, who use special software which can try thousands and thousands of combinations of letters every second.
Golly!
Golly is right, Billy. But we have ways of making hackers' lives much harder. To start with, a strong password should contain at least 8 characters. Every character makes a hacker's job millions of times more difficult.
Why does one letter make such a big difference?
It's technical, Billy, but it does. And that's not the only difference we can make. We can also use a combination of upper and lowercase letters.
I get it. It's like adding a whole second alphabet those bad guys would have to go through.
Exactly. A strong password makes the hacker's job even harder by using numbers and what we call special characters, things like commas, exclamation points. All of these options make password cracking software just plain give up.
Wow.
Yes. And for the final layer of security, VA employees change their password every 90 days. Come on over here, Billy. Let's get busy picking your password, shall we?
It all makes sense. But how am I supposed to remember a password with all those goofy characters?
Oh, come on, Billy. It's not that difficult. Have you heard of anything called mnemonics?
I can't remember whether I have or not.
Oh, don't be a wise guy, Billy. This is serious stuff.
I'm sorry, sir. Sure, I know about mnemonics. It's a trick for remembering things. Like to remember the notes on a musical staff, you use every good boy does fine for EGBDF. Hey, wait a minute. You're saying I could use that for my password.
Exactly.
Hey, how about this? All 5 days this week, I study information security.
Let's take a look. You've got 10 characters. That's very good. You have 2 capitals. You've got a number and a comma. I'd say that is an excellent password.
Let's go put it in.
All right, then. Billy, what are you doing wrong now?
Golly, I don't know.
You should never enter a password with someone looking over your shoulder like I am now.
Oh.
Yeah, in fact, you should do your best to position your keyboard and your workspace to maximize your privacy.
That seems like a great idea, as long as strange men don't keep popping up in my office and talking to people who aren't there.
Billy's learned the steps for strong passwords, but information security is a lot more than just password protection. as he'll learn next in Confidentiality Counts. As you can see, Billy is spending a little time in all the departments of VA, getting oriented and finding his way around. And today, he has to find his way around a concept known as confidentiality.
Hey, it's you again.
Hi, Billy. Confidentiality is nothing more or less than maintaining those conditions which will assure that specific pieces of information are available to those VA employees who need them. It sounds easy, but confidentiality can be compromised in all sorts of ways. For instance, just look at Billy's desk.
My desk? What's wrong with it?
Document control is an important aspect of confidentiality, Billy. Try not to leave files or documents where others might inadvertently see them.
Golly, I never thought of that.
This applies to computer screens, too. Always log off if you plan to be away from your workstation. Information that can be seen by passers-by is as much at risk as if you were announcing the details out loud. And speaking of announcing details, you haven't been too careful today, have you, Billy?
What do you mean?
Think back to this morning, Billy. Do you remember your conversation at the drinking fountain?
Golly, Mr. Stranger Man. Is there anything you don't know about around here?
Well, never mind about that, Billy. Think back. You were standing in the hallway by the drinking fountain.
The drinking fountain. The drinking fountain. The drinking fountain. Are you kidding me? They say he practically won the battle single-handed, even with half his platoon wounded. And he's right here in the 4th floor.
Gosh.
But what was wrong with that? It was exciting to think a real-life hero was here in this facility.
They're all heroes, Billy. Every veteran is a hero. And don't heroes deserve their privacy the same as anyone else?
Gosh, I never really thought of it that way.
And there's another thing you didn't think of, Billy.
Holy crow, what else did I do wrong?
Think back again to the drinking fountain. What else do you remember?
The drinking fountain. I was standing at the drinking fountain, talking to my friend.
That's right, Billy. And who else was there?
No one. It was just the two of us.
Are you sure?
Well, I'm pretty... Oh, jeez!
That's right, Billy. There was another person who could have overheard the confidential information you were sharing with your friend. And let's just imagine for a moment, what if that other person had been a newspaper reporter? Do you think the local paper might have liked knowing that a real-life war hero was right here in this building receiving treatment?
Golly, I've got to call the paper and stop them from running that story.
Relax, Billy. That person wasn't really a reporter.
She wasn't?
No. In fact, she probably didn't even overhear you at all.
Thank goodness.
The point is, she could have. And all because you were a little eager to share confidential information.
I could have gotten in a lot of trouble, couldn't I?
Oh, you sure could have, Billy. In fact, if confidential information about a patient had been revealed to the public due to your mistakes, you and/or the VA could have been liable for any losses resulting from legal action.
You mean like getting sued?
That's right.
Gosh, all this confidentiality stuff is scary.
Well, it doesn't have to be, Billy. VA has set up some awfully good policies and procedures for how to handle confidential information, including the conditions under which that information can be shared. If a coworker asks for a particular piece of confidential information, there are steps to be followed in determining whether to grant that request and exactly how to go about it. Learn the rules, and the rules will take care of you.
Thanks, sir.
Billy now has a basic sense of the importance of confidentiality, but he still doesn't understand all the ways that information can escape the controls we try to put on it. Join us as we tackle Billy's latest problem, disposal dilemma.
Thanks for the help, fellas. I'll see you later tonight. Hey, it's you again.
Yes, it's me again. Say, you look like you've been doing some heavy lifting.
That's right. The folks here in the cemetery administration have been replacing their computers, and the old ones have just been sitting in the hall waiting for the dumpster.
I see.
Well, a guy down the hall knew about this school that needs old computers, so we used our break time to carry the old computers over to the school.
Oh, Billy.
What is it? Did I do something else wrong?
Those computers that are out in the hall, they're full of confidential information. It's like these great big filing cabinets, just full of confidential information. And now they're in a school where school children might view it.
Aha! I've got you this time, sir, because I already thought of that. My buddy and I deleted the old data after we had backed it up to the network drives.
Well, I'm glad you thought to back it up first, Billy, but you really haven't deleted anything.
Sure I did. I watched the whole page of folders vanish.
Well, it's not that simple, Billy. Telling a computer to delete a file doesn't really delete the file. It just tells the computer that it's okay to use that spot for new information if the computer ever needs that space. But the data's still there.
But how does that work?
It's technical, Billy. But the bottom line is that VA has some very special software which is specifically designed to truly delete data before a computer is given to anyone else. The computers out in the hall were on their way to the IT people for that process. They weren't just going to the dumpster.
Holy crow! I gotta get to that school right away!
Not so fast, Billy. I agree you've got a problem, but running around chasing your own tail is no way to get it fixed.
What should I do?
Situations like this one are what we call incidents. Whenever there's any problem with a VA computer, whether it's a virus or an event like this one in which confidential information is at risk, VA already has a plan in place for handling it. It's called the Security Operations Center, or SOC for short. So whenever you become aware of an incident, whether it involves yourself, a coworker, or even your supervisor, your first step is to inform your information security officer. Your ISO will know what to do next.
Do I have to do that now?
Well, time is of the essence, Billy. Tell your ISO everything you can think of about the incident.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I really am sorry.
Now, that wasn't so bad, was it?
Not too bad. You know what? That's not even the first time something like this has happened.
Believe me, Billy, any organization the size of VA has seen plenty of incidents. And it's not as though you were trying to do something wrong. Your heart was in the right place.
Let's hope that pretty soon those computers are in the right place, too.
Billy's having the kind of first week that most of us would like to avoid. But his training and orientation are almost over. And now he's settling into his permanent post back where we first saw him, at the Benefits Administration. And he's about to learn the dangers of when email fails. Billy is starting a new day the way so many of us do, checking to see whether he has any electronic mail, or email as young people call it.
It's not just young people. Everyone calls it that. And you don't have to stand over there. Come and talk to the BA employees like you always do.
Well, electronic mail has become a vital part of how business is done all over the world. But it comes with its own particular challenges, too. Let's look at just a few of the ways that VA employees have to be careful with electronic mail.
Hey, I got new email.
You do, huh?
Oh, heck. It's one of those chain letters. I'm going to write this person back and ask them to please remove me from their list.
Hold on there, youngster.
Why?
Answering that kind of chain letter could cause even more problems than the chain letter itself. After all, the chain letter is bad because of the strain all those letters put on the electronic infrastructure, right?
Yes.
So the please quit it letters just put that much more strain. Better to just delete it, get on with your day.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks. Hey, I've got a new email.
You do, huh?
Yeah. My friend sent me this link to this. Hey, this is swell.
What is it?
This site will let me download software that will let me chat with friends, get free music, pictures, and movies. And it's all free. I'm going to go ahead and download it, but don't worry. I'll only use it during my personal time.
Hold on there, youngster. The kind of software you're talking about, it's called peer-to-peer networking software. And a lot of them aren't allowed on the VA system.
Huh. How come?
Well, for one thing, the computer you're working on right now, it's already on a network. When you turn on peer-to-peer software, you're just basically adding another network to our entire system. It might be small, but it's still something we might not want riding along with us. After all, it could contain hidden code which could give outsiders access to our most secure data. Even when the intent isn't strictly malicious, a lot of these P2P applications contain adware and other problems. If it's something you really feel like you need, get in touch with your local IRM staff and have them approve it.
And make sure I notify my ISO, right?
You're learning, Billy.
Excuse me just a second. Veterans Benefits Administration. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Southeast Bell? I don't understand. You want me to do what? Hang on, please.
Who is it, Billy?
This man says he's from the telephone company, and he wants me to punch in a code so that he can test our long-distance circuits.
I tell you what, ask him for his identification number and his supervisor's extension.
Sir, if you don't mind, could I get your identification number and your... Hey! He hung up!
Remember what you were just saying about people being up to no good? That fellow was one of them.
Say, sometimes I get mad at the phone company too, but that doesn't mean he was a bad guy.
He didn't work for the phone company, Billy. If you had keyed in the code he was asking you to, he would have had access to the VA's phone system, and he could have made all kinds of unauthorized long-distance phone calls.
What a rat fink!
Well, some people use software to do their dirty work, like viruses or Trojan horse programs. But others rely on more time-honored methods of getting unauthorized information. It's called social engineering, Billy, and it usually involves people pretending to be someone whom they're not.
And that actually works?
People like to be helpful. If someone calls in and pretends to be on the road and in need of a password for remote login, or even simply asking questions about personnel, budget, there's no telling to what malicious use the right, or should I say, the wrong information might be put.
Was this an incident? Should I call my ISO?
You're learning, Billy. Billy now understands how to ensure that when he uses a computer, he takes all the necessary steps for proper use. But what about other kinds of use? Billy is about to learn that there's no excuse for misuse. Billy is starting to feel right at home here at VA. He's learned a lot about how to handle the different kinds of information which are all part of his job. But he also has to learn the rules for things which are not part of his job.
Sir, do you think if I work for VA long enough that I'll start talking to people who aren't there?
Maybe so, Billy. But right now, I'd like to talk to you.
Okay.
I notice you're still on your computer. Isn't it your lunch hour?
Yes, sir, but don't worry, I'm not really working. I love my job, but not that much.
Then, may I ask, what is it you are doing?
Yes, sir. There's this place called e-auction where people buy and sell things to each other just like they were at a real auction.
I see.
Well, anyway, my kid brother and I used to have a lawn care service. Believe it or not, we made pretty good money with that little business. When I took this job, I told him he could have the business to himself. And he wants to sell some of his old equipment to get some newer stuff. But our folks' computer only has dial-up, and it's really slow.
And you thought you would use your own free time to help out your kid brother, huh?
Exactly.
Ah.
What is it, sir? Is something wrong?
I'm afraid so, Billy. Right this second, you're committing a prohibited act.
I am?
Inappropriate use of VA computer equipment.
But it's not like I'm goofing off when I'm supposed to be working. This is my lunch hour.
Computers don't take lunch hours, Billy. The VA computers are always on duty.
First of all, I really wish you wouldn't say my name in every sentence. And second of all, are you saying that one little workstation at one little auction site is wearing out the whole network?
Yes, Billy, that's exactly what I'm saying.
But how could that be?
A lot of these sites make their money by selling ads, and a lot of these ads are what we call pop-up ads.
Yeah, I hate those things.
Everybody does, Billy. But the worst kinds are the ones which masquerade as system messages from your very own computer. The pop-up ad may look like an error message or a warning which tries to scare you.
You're kidding.
I wish I were, Billy. The ad might say something like, "Warning, your system is low on memory. Click here for more information." But when you click on the OK box, you're taken to a site which is selling memory software. And that site sometimes loads its own adware right onto the VA system, which can cause problems for the whole network.
And those problems might last a lot longer than just my lunch hour, huh?
Yes, but that's not all.
There's more?
You see, Billy, VA rules include strict policies against using our system to support any other businesses or for-profit activities.
Even my kid brother's lawn care business.
You said it yourself, Billy. It's a business. And if we let you do it, shouldn't we let other employees do the same? And before you know it, VA workers are using our computers to play the stock market or to send out mass emails about the cookware they sell part-time, and so on.
I never thought about that.
Your ISO has complete information about what sort of activities are considered inappropriate. And as for your kid brother, well, he should maybe try his local library. Most libraries have free high-speed internet access these days.
That's a great idea. Maybe I'll send him around to have a look at your yard sometime. He doesn't need nearly as much supervision as I do.
Billy's learned a lot about information security in his short time at VA. He's learned the differences between strong and weak passwords. He's learned about confidential information and about the importance of protecting it. Even situations in which something feels like an act of generosity can, in fact, present dangers to the security of confidential information. He's learned about the do's and don'ts of email, and about the things which might constitute misuse of VA computer resources. And of course, the learning never really stops. Information security, especially computer security, is always changing as the technology grows. But that's why Billy will take additional training every year, so that he can stay on top of the latest threats and the latest techniques for fighting them. All of these lessons and experiences help Billy do what every VA employee needs to do: keep our information safe and secure.
But sir, there's something I don't understand.
What's that, Billy?
Well, I figure you're never going to tell me why you keep popping up like that, or why you're always standing there talking to nobody, or why you say my name about 1 jillion times every time you talk to me. But I keep wondering about something else, too. Why is everything around here in black and white? And why are we dressed this way? Doggone it, why is everything around here so old-fashioned?
I'll tell you why, Billy. Because the idea of information security is not new. Why, it's as old-fashioned as good old common sense.